Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
What makes a veteran shortstop suddenly willing to switch positions after years of defending his spot? When Bo Bichette made it clear to teams this week that he's open to playing second base long term, the free agent market shifted dramatically. This isn't just about one player changing positions. This is about how championship windows open and close based on flexibility, and it might completely change the Toronto Blue Jays offseason strategy. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because we're breaking down exactly what this means for Bo's market value, which teams are suddenly interested, and whether Toronto just made their situation easier or way more complicated. This was posted by Mark Feinsand yesterday, and apparently, according to him, Bichette is starting to tell teams he'd be willing to move to second base. Yeah, this was expected. His market was not out there to be a shortstop for multiple reasons. One, a lot of teams already have their shortstop positions locked down. You look around the league, there's pretty much plugged holes everywhere in terms of the shortstop position. And Bo Bichette, while he's a great shortstop in terms of the bat, defensively speaking, not so much, and that is the other point right there, he's just not that good of a defender. We know we've been over this multiple times, but the defensive metrics just aren't there. That's just not good enough for today's baseball where you need that athleticism and defense at shortstop as a bare minimum. However, what can work is if you move over to second base. That arm is better suited there, the range might be better suited there, and teams would be happy to plug you into their lineup with that bat if you're willing to play second base. A lot of teams have openings at second base. I'm actually surprised that it took him this long to start entertaining that. I guess maybe he really wanted to enter the market as a shortstop, see where teams were at, and who knows, maybe there was a team out there that would have been willing to do it. I guess that wasn't the case. And now him and his representation has decided that from a monetary standpoint, it's better to market yourself as someone who can play multiple positions. From a team perspective, there's just so many organizations out there that already have their guy at shortstop. But when you think about the second base market, there's not a whole lot of top-tier second basemen. You think about the elite guys at that position, and the list gets thin fast. Very rarely do you think about second baseman as being a real strength of teams. I look at somebody like Bo Bichette, and while I'm not about to tell you that he's going to immediately become the best defensive second baseman ever, I could certainly see him being a cornerstone at the position for a long period of time. This is a best of both worlds situation if you're a team. You get a really great bat, and you can keep your elite shortstop defensively at shortstop if you already have one. It's one of the many reasons why people have been saying for years, especially this past year, we want Bichette to move to second base because you could have elite defense at short and his bat at second. Not a lot of teams are really needing a shortstop, but a lot of teams do need a second baseman, and that was reported right here by Mark Feinsand. Far more clubs are looking at him for help at second base than shortstop. Bo's willingness to switch positions should bring more teams into his market. I think that's inevitably what it is. We've been hearing that not a lot of teams were interested in him, but now that he's willing to switch over to second base, I think you're going to start to see a lot of openings from other teams saying, okay, you want to play second base? Well, let me jump back into your market right here. There's a few teams out there that need second basemen. The Dodgers are named as one. The Red Sox, the Giants, the Mariners, and the Rangers could all be potential fits. Of course, the Toronto Blue Jays are another, but that just goes to show with all these other teams, the market's going to pick up for him, and he might get paid more than we anticipated for a second baseman. That's the thing. There was no market for him as a shortstop, and if you're the Toronto Blue Jays, you didn't really want to just jump in and pay him like a shortstop because ultimately you'd probably not be playing him there anyway, so you don't want to do that. But now you've waited so long, and now that he's started to adjust, I think you're going to have way more competition for him. They list a couple teams right there, Dodgers, Red Sox, whatever. They don't even bring up the Yankees. I could 100% see Bichette going to the New York Yankees. If they need some help in the infield, put them at second base. Makes a whole lot of sense to me. Frankly, there's just a ton of other teams that you can throw out there where it's like, can you name the second baseman of certain teams? Maybe not, and Bo Bichette would certainly be an upgrade over whoever they have at that position. So for me, this honestly is great news for Bo Bichette because I think his market is about to flourish. But it is a little scary for the Toronto Blue Jays because I think that they are about to run into a ton more competition for him, and you're going to see now if there's a bidding war, his price tag start to creep up. Yeah, it is concerning news for the Toronto Blue Jays that he's willing to move over because of what you said right there. And now you're having a situation where Bo doesn't have to wait on you anymore. Toronto Blue Jays, we know we've been talking for a long time. It's been Kyle Tucker, Kyle Tucker, Kyle Tucker. That's been the main focus this offseason, and rightfully so. Kyle Tucker would be an incredible addition to this team, but your plan B, Bichette, now doesn't have to wait for you anymore. If there's a bunch of other teams offering what he wants and the Blue Jays are just focused on Tucker because he could take as long as he wants being the number one free agent, if I'm Bo Bichette, I might just consider going with one of these other teams if I'm getting the right offer right now, which is concerning. Exactly. And speaking of Tucker taking his time, that is still the consensus right now. This was from Jeff Passan just a couple hours ago now. He brings up Bregman and Bellinger. He believes that those two individuals want a long-term deal, and they aren't budging because both of them have already done the short-term deal. So it makes sense. They don't want to have to go down that road again. He brings up Tucker after that, though, and says, look, Tucker's in a great spot right now. He's still the belle of the ball. He's still the guy. He can wait. He can afford to be patient. He even brings up Toronto as well. He says, even though there's clear ties to Toronto, if you're Kyle Tucker, you can afford to wait on this. And then he brings up Bo Bichette, and he brings up the fact that Bichette gets a lot of hits. Now that he's potentially a second baseman, and on top of the fact that his resume has indicated that he can be very strong offensively when he's healthy, I see a lot more teams interested in Bichette, and it is a little scary for Toronto because if you're waiting and waiting and waiting on Kyle Tucker to make his decision and then you see Bichette leave the board, that to me is when I'm going to start to feel the pressure. I've been laying back thinking we're comfortable, we're going to get one of these guys because in the back of my head I'm thinking, well, if Kyle Tucker goes elsewhere, you can always fall back on Bo. Doesn't feel like he's going to be the fallback plan anymore. I know there's people concerned about why are we going for Kyle Tucker right now? We should be getting back Bo Bichette. Does this concern you at all that we're kind of willing to let his market develop while we're focusing on Kyle Tucker and we're okay with him potentially walking so we can grab Tucker instead? Well, I hope that they're not completely out of the Bo Bichette conversations. I assume that Toronto's still talking with him, and I would imagine that numbers have been exchanged back and forth. So who knows, maybe the fact that he's a second baseman now brings Toronto back to the table. Maybe they were hesitant on this whole thing, and now the fact that he is a second baseman brings them back into the fold while it is also bringing other teams in. I will say this to all the people that are concerned about that, because I get it. We've been there before. Put all the eggs in the Shohei Ohtani basket. Put all the eggs in the Juan Soto basket and ended up with nothing. Scared money doesn't make money. And sometimes if you want to hit a home run, you've got to take a big swing. It might mean that you strike out, but then if you actually make contact, that ball's going 450 feet. That kind of feels like what it is with Kyle Tucker. And I do think that we're in the best situation still out of any team to actually make contact on that ball and to hit a home run here. So, yes, it is scary. Yes, it is a high risk, high reward type thing. Because if you see Bichette leave the board and then Tucker decides that he's going to go to the Dodgers and win a World Series there, that's going to suck and it will hurt. However, when you have the best odds to go and get that guy, I would argue that it would be irresponsible to not play for the big-time move in getting Kyle Tucker. And look, we could compare them all day long. We can compare their numbers all you want, but they effectively are very similar in age. Kyle Tucker's 28, Bichette's 27 right now. Tucker's a great contact hitter. He's got power. He's got the legs underneath him. He's got stolen bases under his belt. He's smart in that sense. And he's got the ability to not strike out, and he's one of the best in baseball at drawing walks. And he's going to be with your team for the next 8 to 9 to 10 years. So if you get Kyle Tucker, you're effectively building a window right now that could last even longer than Bo Bichette, I would argue, because Bo Bichette, the type of deal he might get, might be 5 or 6 years. Kyle Tucker could be here for quite a long time and would be the better option. And I do feel like it sucks to potentially see Bo Bichette walk and go to another team, but that's his right. He's earned the right to hit free agency, to go test out the market. We didn't know what he was worth. He didn't know what he was worth. He had to find that out. And if he finds that out with another team, but we still land the number one free agent who could arguably be better, that's the way it's got to be, and we've got to move on. Exactly. And circling back to that whole point of everyone being scared, well, if we miss out on Tucker, we've got to go get Bo and everything like that. For those who understand poker, I just thought of this analogy right now. Toronto is the heavy favorite to land Kyle Tucker. Let's just say you have pocket kings, because that's what it feels like with Toronto right now to go and get Tucker. He lives in Tampa. We're in a good spot. We match up well offensively. It would be a bad play if you didn't go all in right now. You could still lose. You could still get beat, and I will admit you could still get beat. That would suck. But the odds say that you should be going all in with the hand that you have right now. I still like our chances a lot to get Kyle Tucker. It will be a dagger if we miss out on him, especially if Bo walks. But I think with this added new wrinkle that Bichette's marketing himself as a second baseman, you still talk with Bo. You're still in those conversations, but now there is a bit of a sense of urgency to go and get the Kyle Tucker deal done. And also going back to the whole Bo Bichette thing, just because he's saying I'm willing to open up and play second base still doesn't mean that teams necessarily are going to offer him the contract that he wants, because he obviously had a number he wanted. And if he's going to play second base, our team's going to value that the same as him playing shortstop. He's still a great bat, don't get me wrong, but if it's still not matching the number that's in his head or his camp's head, he still might take a shorter-term deal with opt-outs. He might pull the Bellinger and the Bregman and then try again the following offseason. That's totally normalized in today's free agency. So it's not completely out of the option that the Blue Jays would be entertaining that as well. Exactly. And again, this doesn't mean we're going to lose him. It just does mean that there's going to be more competition for him. But hey, that's free agency. That's literally just how it goes. So this is the situation that the Toronto Blue Jays have found themselves in right now. It would make me feel a lot better if they just locked down Kyle Tucker soon, but I think honestly patience is still going to be the name of the game. At this current juncture of time, being mid-December, I've got a feeling that these free agents, I think we're going past Christmas. I did some thinking on this. This feels very much like a Bryce Harper, Manny Machado type of offseason where it was just clear it was just those guys. Kyle Tucker being that guy. Just one dude that was clearly the dominant dude, and there wasn't like a mega talent like the Otanis or Sotos, just an elite guy. And that guy waited till January because he knew he could. And I'm thinking it might be the same thing with Bregman and now with Bo too. Now that he's saying he's a second baseman, he's still got to wait for that market to develop. He's going to have all these meetings again, and he's got to do all that. And Christmas time is going to slow that down. So patience, name of the game. I'm thinking maybe early in the new year we're going to hear something more, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the one thing I do request, do not go to the New York Yankees, please. That would suck. I'd be very confused. But let us know your thoughts about everything we talked about in the comments down below. Please hit that like button and smash that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. And as always, go Jays, go.